Hey everyone, happy Wednesday afternoon. My name is Allison Turner. I am the founder of Batcat Media Group, which is home to my podcast, Dream Plan Start Grow. I wanted to jump on here today and just talk a little bit about overthinking. I've run into this personally and professionally, and then I've had clients that have run into this as well. And what happens when you're overthinking is literally you get paralyzed. You do not make decisions. And it's one of the worst things in business, and I think life too, because I've done it in life as well. I used to be that person that wanted to, and I still analyze decisions, especially if they're bigger decisions. If I'm, buying a new car, or I look at the pros and cons of different cars, things like that. But for me, that's more research versus I'm overthinking the decision. So overthinking, why do people actually overthink? I think, one of a few reasons. There's four, good reasons. I mean, there's probably more than that, but fear of failure. So when you start a business, it's brand new. You don't have, when you work for someone else, you have a job description. You have this job description. You stay in your little box at your company you're working for, and it's all well and good. When you start a business, and I'm going to talk a little bit more on the business side, but I'll throw some personal examples in too. When you start a business, now you're doing a little bit of everything. So stuff you maybe didn't do in the other job, a lot of times you didn't do, you're doing. So what happens? It's that fear of failure. I'm like, oh my God, what if I don't do it right? What if, it's something new? So we talked a little bit last week about change and saying yes instead of always saying no to things. So what if, in fear of failure, it's how can I move forward and not let that bother me? So when I started this business, I really struggled with this because I would wake up and occasionally it, happens like, when some big decision or something more stressful comes into the business, occasionally it happens, but it would happen more frequently back when I started the business almost 10 years ago, where I would I've always been able to like go to sleep relatively easily, but I would wake up and just be like panic stricken about something that was going on in the business. And usually, sometimes it was around money of like, oh, these bills are coming up and like, what are we doing? But it was always overthinking, like, what am I going to do at 3 a.m? Like, am I going to go work? Am I going to call a client up and be like, hey, let's do this? I can't do anything at 3 a.m. most of the time. And I knew that. So logically, I knew I couldn't do anything. But that illogical voice in your head that's like, what are you going to do? Like, what if this fails? What if you don't get it right? That just keeps going over and over. So I definitely struggled with that early on. And, occasionally, I think all of us have that fear of failure at some point in our lives. And it probably pops up even in your personal life, if you've struggled in a relationship and then you get back into another relationship. It's that, oh my God, what if, oops, drop the microphone. Don't want to do that. What if that happens again? So, the fear of failure, number two, especially in business, is high stakes. Business is a little bit more high stakes, especially if you put money into it. I know a lot of people that maybe they liquidate their 401k or some of their IRA, or they have life savings that they put money, so they use money and they put it into the business. So you have higher stakes. So that leads into that fear of failure and that overthinking of like, oh, what if I do it wrong? And even personally, there can be higher stakes in relationships. There can be higher stakes with kids. Like, what if I'm making the wrong decision for my child? You have to just trust that it's going to happen and be okay with it. But you have to grow into that to some degree. Number three, lack of control. So there's some situations you just can't control, especially in business. I can control how I write a proposal. I can control what services we provide. I can control all of that. I can control how I talk with my, potential clients. Ultimately, if they're getting 3 proposals, I can't control who they sign with. And that's okay. But, it's always that thing of like, you want to control the situation. And there's certain situations that you cannot control. They are out of your control. And I've really learned, I've actually improved on this like 120%. I've really learned to let those go. There's some things that are completely out of my control. So why am I going to worry about them? I can't worry about them. It would be ridiculous for me to worry about them. So I acknowledge them. They're still there, but I acknowledge them and say, you know what? It is what it is. I can't control that. So I'm not going to overthink that. Again, that can apply to business or your personal life, with your kids, your family, your relationships, finances. You can't control whether the market goes up or down in finances. What you can control is where you invest. So there's things that you can control, and there's definitely things that you can't control. And number 4 that leads into that overthinking is complex and uncertain environments. So for example, I always like to give the example of Blockbuster versus Netflix. We all remember Blockbuster, the store. I actually loved the store. It was great. I'd get to Friday and I'd be like, hey, let me go get a movie, have some popcorn, get a movie, relax. And I'd go to the store, like, what are the newest releases? They'd always have that new release section. And can I get the new release that I want to see? And it was fun because I get to see and pick up all the different videos and things like that. So I really enjoyed the store. And then Netflix came to the light. And Netflix brought out a whole different model because you went online and you ordered what you wanted and it got delivered to you in DVD form. That was great. I still like the Blockbuster model a little bit better, but that's where the world was moving. But what did Blockbuster do wrong is they didn't look at the trends. So they didn't look at the market trends. They didn't look at the customer preferences. So more customers obviously went online and they wanted to be able to choose instead of going in and fighting for that one tape back in the VCR days or DVD at Blockbuster. And there had been technological advancements. So now you could build this website that allowed Netflix to basically offer all these things. And they figured out how to, get them royalty free or whatever the word is. And then there were competitive pressures, which obviously Blockbuster didn't pay attention to. They thought, oh, we'll be here forever. And so they didn't change with the trends. And ultimately they went away. They filed for bankruptcy. So that's what can happen if you don't pay attention, and that's when that overthinking, maybe Blockbuster was thinking oh, well, here's Netflix and they're doing this. And maybe they were overthinking the situation and maybe they just paused too long and then it was too late to really overcome the situation. I don't know what the final thing was there, but it's just a great example because it really clearly shows how these market trends and preferences can impact. And then you look at Netflix today and now they've moved past, and I think you can still get the DVD in the mail because I look at the website and I'm like, oh, you can still order those. But now they moved past it to that instant gratification, which we all like in this day and age, where you can just stream something. So you pay for a streaming service and you just stream it. So I don't know if there's differences in their DVD service or their streaming service, but awesome. So now you got a couple of choices. But how do you overcome overthinking and that little voice in your head that's like, oh, you don't want to do that. Maybe this is the right decision, or maybe this is the right decision. And you keep going back and forth, listen to the little devil and the little angel in your head. And you're like, oh my God, I can't make any decision. And then you're paralyzed. Number 1, set clear goals and priorities. So this goes for anything in your life, your business. The clearer the goals and priorities allow you to really say yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. And this can really help bring the right energy into your decisions. This can help by, helping you achieve things. It can help in, as I said a minute ago, making those decisions, because too often it's hard to make those decisions. But if I have that clear roadmap, I can know right away that, hey, this is not the right decision for me because this is where I want to go. I'm a business coach. So take business coaching. I have coaches that I work with, that I pay to work with. And now I'm really working largely with I'm in a mastermind with one and then working with another one. And I've really focused in there. So when these other shiny things, I get, someone tries to sell me this program or hey, get this free download or whatever. I'm like, No, 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 no. Here's my focus. I'm only focusing here. I'm not doing anything else. So it's very clear. My vision's clear. I'm ready to launch things. And that's where I need to focus. So that's, number one is make sure you have those clear goals and priorities. And then number two, make sure you're setting SMART goals. So we've all heard that term, the SMART, SMART. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So knowing exactly what those goals are and that you can measure those goals. So if it's for a podcast, for example, or a live stream, or YouTube channel, let's take a YouTube channel, I want to have, say you want to have 1,000 subscribers by a certain date. What's it going to take for you to get that? Is it streaming once a week? Probably not, unless you're like, there's something that's really unique about your content. There's so many content, YouTube channels out there. So is it doing more shorts? How many shorts a day do you need to get X amount of followers? How much, to get the traction to actually move up in that? So always trying to be measurable, because then again, you know what that next step is. So you're not going to overthink it. You're not going to second guess it. Number three, in solving that overthinking crisis is embrace imperfection and learn from the mistakes. We all, whether you're in business or you are, having challenges in your life, we all make mistakes, and it's okay. I make mistakes all the time, and it's okay, but obviously my goal is not to make as many mistakes, but learn from what happened and move forward. And that's really the key thing, is I have to continue to learn from what's happening and then continue to move forward in what that next goal is. So make a note, figure out what needs to change, and then learn from it. And then number four, delegate and seek input. This is probably one of the biggest challenges I had early on in the business, was delegation. Because I was like, well, if you're not going to do it perfectly, I'm not going to give it to you. And there's still some stuff I hold on to that I'm just not willing to let go. I mean, there's still some things that no matter what I say to someone, it doesn't translate the right way. So figure out what you can delegate comfortably, like right away. What are you not good at? What do you not enjoy? And delegate those tasks. Because just because you want to keep everything in-house and hold on to everything doesn't mean that's the right decision. Because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, don't do it. Because ultimately your business, and I'm going to go back to the business side, your business is built to impact someone or something or a company, impact the world. So how do you use that? Like, how do you delegate the things that you don't enjoy that help build the business, and just focus on the things you do best and that you have the most passion about, because the passion comes through. And then the last thing I want to talk about is managing stress. And as business owners, I say that, this is probably one of the most critical. How do you manage stress? Make sure you continue to exercise. So whatever that is for you, is it going for walks? Is it going to the gym? Is it swimming? Is it doing the high impact things? Is it yoga? Is it Zumba? I mean, there's so many things. And nowadays you can stream stuff on your TV and do things right out of your own house. So continue to exercise. I mean, I would say at least 3 or 4 times a week. I try and do it like 6 times a week now, 6 times, maybe 30 to 45 minutes a day. But that just gets me into a good routine to start my day off, because usually I do it in the morning. Number 2, visualization's awesome. Visualization. So especially when you're working towards a goal. So we talked about the SMART measurable goals earlier. When you're working towards that goal, visualize what it feels like and looks like when it's done. Like, say you're launching a course, visualize that launch. Visualize people's excitement or customers' excitement around that launch. Visualize working with those new clients. Do the visualization piece. Number 3, meditation or mindfulness. I probably have less experience here. I have friends that do this and swear by it. I can certainly recommend people that know more than I do about it, but I've gone in and out of it a little bit, and it may be something I bring back in at some point. But meditation and mindfulness is another way to manage your stress. And each of us is different. So you have to find the right tools for you to manage your stress. Yoga is another great one. Again, that kind of falls into that meditation mindfulness, because if you're doing yoga, yoga can be an exercise, but yoga can be an entire practice as well. And then breath work's another suggestion. But there's so many different ways to manage stress, and you have to find what works for you. It's an individual thing, and you have to know what works for you and really embrace it and practice it each and every day. So be consistent. So again, today we're talking about the overthinking, paralysis by analysis. Initially, we went through 4 points of why people overthink. And that, which are fear of failure, the high stakes, if you're in a business or you have kids, things like that, lack of control over certain situations, a complex and uncertain environment. So I used the example of Netflix versus Blockbuster. And then how to overcome thinking and that little voice in your head that's always questioning what you're doing is set clear goals and priorities. Because once I have that roadmap, I may have to make a hard right turn, a hard left turn, or something like that, but I know which turn to make, and I'm not going to second guess that. Set SMART goals. So the specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. Set those goals. Number 3, embrace imperfection and learn from your mistakes. Number 4, delegate and seek input. So don't forget that it takes a village to create extraordinary. It takes a village to create, extraordinary life, but extraordinary business. So don't feel like you have to do everything yourself. And the last thing is manage your stress. So watch your sleep levels. And one thing I didn't mention in here is sleep. That's probably one of my weaker things. And I've been really working. I track it with this Apple Watch. I have 3 different apps that track sleep. So I kind of watch, when do I need to stop eating by? When do I need to get to bed by in order to get up at a certain early time? What's my optimal sleep? Because different people have different needs for their sleep. But I hope this was helpful. Remember, overthinking is a thing. We've all experienced it. And it's really, how do we manage it so we're not overthinking? We're embracing change. We're saying yes to things. And we are creating an extraordinary life and business. My name again is Allison Turner. Thanks for jumping in today and watching. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your Wednesday.